already moving ashore. You see how it's just right along the coastline. Our continued live coverage continues after the break. We'll be right back.
We need some help.
I know. I'm going to CashNetUSA.com. And if
I ain't gonna lie. What is going on right
We think it's live back over in southwestern Jamaica near Treasure Beach. Some people are saying it's a loop. I literally have no clue. Like, I cannot tell for sure. I would be surprised if there was a camera up, but like I've had people looking at it and people do not think it is a loop. So it has moved around quite a bit and it's looked at different stuff and it does look like Jamaica. So we'll look into it more, but like, I don't think it is a loop just based off of what I've looked at throughout the stream, but I mean, that's, even if that's not live, that is probably pretty close to what it is actually live.
Yeah, man. It's a lot going on right now in Jamaica. With this hurricane, it's just crazy, though. This hurricane is really crazy right now. Yeah, man, this hurricane is really bad right now. This hurricane is really bad. I'm trying to see if I can find a good live. Let me see this.
Safe elevated areas to ensure that you are safe from all the dangers of coastal waters and riverine waters. And as best as possible, ensure that on the inside of your property, you're staying in between double walls. So if your outer wall goes, you're a little bit protected, and stay downstairs if you have a multi-story facility. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Thompson. Thank you, Minister Mackenzie. I think we're going to go to nationwide news now.
Oh, please. I realize that it's on. I don't know if Odd Pimp can give it.
In a nutshell, especially the Jamaica Fire Brigade have a number of boats that can be used on land and can be used at sea for rescue operation and search operation.
Minister, I think there were some questions around tips, I think, between you and Mr. Thompson in terms of tips for persons. I know you're an expert in this area.
Yeah, thank you, Minister. Very difficult in terms of tips for Category 5, but nonetheless, I think one of the things that we have to do is to ensure that, as was said before, that we are doing most of the preparation going in. In terms of tips, we have always said that person should try as best as possible to bring a lot of stuff already outside, inside. We don't want a lot of stuff that you have loose stuff outside, especially, Minister spoke it about construction sites. A lot of those things can be used as missile in the system, so you try to bring a lot of those in as best as possible. Try to secure your animals. If you're inside, you stay in between walls that are not close to to your outer walls in terms of your structures, because if your structure is not sound enough, those will go. A little bit better, I think, for persons who have multi-story facility. If your roof goes, you can go on the lower part of your lower part of your building. Search and rescue component, the minister said it before, The teams are out there, but what we are saying in terms of tips as well, which was said before, and I will enforce it again, get into the shelters, because in terms of search and rescue, we can't do search and rescue in the heights of a system. Persons need to get away from the coastline, away from low-lying areas that are prone to flooding, and ensure that you are in safe, elevated areas to ensure that you are safe from all the dangers of coastal waters and riverine waters. And as best as possible, ensure that on the inside of your property, you are staying in between double walls. So if your outer wall goes, you're a little bit protected, and stay downstairs if you have a multi-story facility. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Thompson. Thank you, Minister Mackenzie. I think we're going to go to nationwide news now.
So with this, I wonder if this is directly from the people of Jamaica. I want to go back and actually hear what they had to say.
In terms of our press briefings, as always, we believe that it is important that you get accurate.
Sorry about that, chat. All right, so look, I'm pretty much just trying to stay up to date on what's really going on with this hurricane in Jamaica. So that's why I wanted to go back to the beginning of this video and actually hear what the people of Jamaica are saying. So let's check this out, and then we can get into it.
Information, and so we are here to give that information to you. And with me this morning, I have Minister Desmond Mackenzie, who is our Deputy Chair of our National Disaster Risk Council. He's also our Minister of Local Government and Community Development. We also have Minister Darrell Vaz, our Minister of Energy, Telecoms and Transportation, who is extremely important at this time. With us, we also have the person everybody wants to hear from, Mr. Evan Thompson, who is the head of our meteorological office here in Jamaica. Many people have said that they look forward to these briefings so they know what is happening, and I thank you all for tuning in. I thank the members in the diaspora for also tuning in and helping us to get the message to your families back home in Jamaica. So this morning we're going to have a quick briefing, and so I'm going to start with Evan Thompson. I need to acknowledge some others who are in the room. I want to acknowledge the head of ODPEM, Mr. Richard Thompson, who is here, and also the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Local Government and Community Development, Marsha Henry Martin, and they've all been here overnight. I also want to acknowledge the members of the media who are here. They have been here consistently with us. We want to thank them. They're here sleeping on cots. That's how committed they are to getting the news and the information to you, and I'm very grateful to them and thank them. I know it's difficult being away from your families, but know that we are grateful to you. Another person that I need to thank are the caterers. There are a lot of people here in the emergency center, and they need to be fed. And I want to thank the mothers team that's working to provide food. They bring breakfast, lunch, and they try to bring dinner too. And everybody who is in the emergency center is fed. We cannot do this without them, so I just wanted to acknowledge them also. So let's get started with the man of the moment, Evan Thompson.
Thank you very much, Minister. And the lady of the moment is Hurricane Melissa. And we'll be hearing a lot about Hurricane Melissa today because there has been no significant change in terms of the magnitude of this system, the strength of its winds. Our satellite imagery will just give you a good picture of what is really happening out there over the waters and even over the land, because Hurricane Melissa, a Category 5 hurricane, continues to barrel its way. Well, not barrel its way because it's still moving pretty slowly, but moving toward the southwestern coastline of Jamaica. We are starting to experience quite a few of the impacts of this system because we have been experiencing rainfall over much of the island, especially in the west and the south of the country. We've been having some periods of heavy rainfall, mostly moderate rainfall. There have also been gusts of wind and some sustained strong winds over sections of the island. The gusts, of course, going well into tropical storm force as we went through the night last night and as we have gone through this morning so far. We recognize that the system has not yet made landfall. The center is still some distance away from the coastline, just about 70 to 75 kilometers from the southwestern coastline, and it is still moving toward the north-northeast. So it is moving closer and closer to the coastline of Jamaica. I mentioned that it has been moving slowly, but it has been moving a little bit faster than it was previously, because it's now moving at 11 kilometers per hour. That's just about 7 miles per hour. And it is expected to make that turn to be more in a direction, moving in a direction toward the northeast, which is a slight shift toward the east, more so than it is going at this time. So it will continue to move toward the island, making its entry on the southwestern coastline. We do expect, let me move this slide forward a little bit so you can see and get an idea of where we're expecting it to move. First, let me just point to those circles that you're seeing on the image. Where the center is located, the inner, I refer to it as the inner core, which is that orange area that's surrounding it. And then you have the outer band, you know, of the greens that extend across the country, which is what most of us have been experiencing thus far. But the inner core that we speak of is that orange area that we expect to be making some impact on the island, and that's where the stronger winds are concentrated. Also, the heavier rainfall is in that general area. We did say that the system is a Category 5 hurricane at this time, and when it makes landfall, it is expected to still be a Category 5 hurricane. That means it will cause catastrophic damage, life-threatening damage. There is very little that can stop a Category 5 hurricane. And regardless of the where you are in the parish of Westmoreland or St. Elizabeth, if you are under the impact of those Category 5 hurricane force winds, you will be having significant difficulty even with infrastructure that's in the area. So ensure that you are in the strongest area that you can. The recommendation from the Hurricane Center is that you would have as many walls between yourself and the outside as you can, because it is important to reinforce yourself and to ensure that you are not left vulnerable to this system. We do expect that it will gradually be reduced in strength as it moves over the island. It will fall to a Category 4, maybe, and then Category 3 as it exits the country, possibly. But in the meantime, when it makes landfall, which is expected, as you can see in this image here, to be somewhere near parity in western St. Elizabeth, that's somewhat to the east of Black River. So it will most likely make landfall in the western part of St. Elizabeth rather than in the eastern part of Westmoreland. And then it will continue moving toward the northeast. That is the direction of movement that is expected. It will continue over the northern part of St. Elizabeth and then move into southern Trelawney. And the exit is expected to be somewhere in Trelawney rather than in St. Anne. It would be most likely in the eastern end of Trelawney rather than St. Anne, where it makes its exit from the island of Jamaica. Here we see the area, this area of orange shows the outer bands of the system, where we are expecting to be experiencing impacts, heavy rainfall right across the length and breadth of Jamaica, also strong winds across the island. The amounts of rainfall that we expect, we see here again, we indicated that we would have between 20 and 30 inches or 500 to 750 millimeters of rainfall affecting sections of the island. The area that is expected to be impacted mostly has been narrowed a little bit on the map. So you'll see that Jamaica's central parishes are most at risk and extending into the west of the island as well. And then some slightly lower figures are expected for the rest of the island, but still significant rainfall. 12 to 16 inches, 300 to 400 millimeters is nothing to scoff at. It's still a lot of rainfall, still expected to produce significant flooding. You might be saying that this system doesn't seem to be packing much of a punch because what you've been experiencing outside doesn't seem to be worthy of all the hurrah that we're creating about the system. But the truth is it is still some distance away from the coast, expected to move closer and then move across the island, and that means that the impacts are going to be significantly greater than you've already been experiencing. Flooding is expected. Landslides are expected. Storm surge is expected. And of course, those strong winds we will not be able to escape, especially if you're in the path of this system and in the path close to the eye of the system. The rest of the island, I mentioned the Category 5 hurricane force winds that will be experienced over parts of St. Elizabeth and Westmoreland going into Trelawney, but we are expecting tropical storm force winds over the rest of the country. And so we all should be experiencing or looking out for the experience of tropical storm winds right across the island. Here we see on our picture some of the areas that are expected to be mostly inundated from storm surge that is also expected to come onshore, and this would be in those bays and inlets. In the area of Black River, we expect significant storm surge, although the center is now expected to be somewhat of Black River, so this might have to be updated slightly, but Black River will also experience storm surge. Storm surge could get as high as 13 feet. That's high. 13 feet is a couple of stories high. And so you need to be very much prepared for that kind of activity if you're in any of those bays or inlets along the coast of St. Elizabeth in particular, and even going into Clarendon. So those traditional areas of storm surge impact, like Portland Cottage, Rocky Point, those are areas that, because of the geography, we are expecting still to experience some amount of storm surge in those areas, although probably not as significant as we would have in St. Elizabeth along the coast. So anywhere, even along the coast of Manchester, parts of Alligator Pond and, Treasure Beach area should also be looking out for that kind of activity, and going eastward as far as parts of St. Catherine. And that is basically the presentation at this time. I'm sure you'll have some questions that will bring out some more information later. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Evan. You heard it. It is strengthening and it is coming to Jamaica. I know we've been praying for it not to hit, but it is going to hit us. So we have to heed everything that Evan has just said. I'm going to ask if there are any questions for Evan before we go on to the others. Any member of the media? Okay, please go ahead. Do we have a mic, or you're just going to speak very loudly and I'll repeat it? I think the mic is coming. You can just speak and I'll repeat the question. Okay, so the question was, has the window now closed for those who need to make preparations, especially on the western side of the island?
We're very close. Thanks for the question, JIS. We are very close to the closing of that window. I mean, I would not actually say it's entirely closed, because there are a couple of things that you might be able to do right outside your doors that could reinforce your structures. If that is a possibility, when we have some level of calm, I have been hearing from persons in St. Elizabeth, in Manchester, who have indicated that they are getting quite some heavy rainfall and some strong winds, but there are usually some lulls, some periods of semi-calm that they can probably do something quickly on the outside and get back inside. So we would like to ask everyone to ensure that you keep yourself safe. Exercise extreme caution if you have to do anything immediately outside. But of course, as the system moves any closer, we will start to experience the eye wall of the system moving onshore, and then the eye will make its impact. And we do expect that that will occur by midday today. So during the latter part of this morning, after 10 11 o'clock, I would say let's not take any chances on the outside. Let's make sure that we are on the inside, so as this system makes its way here, we're not destroyed ourselves. Apart from the structures outside, we have to make sure that we save our own lives. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Evan. We're going to now move to Minister Darrell Vaz, who is our Minister of Energy, Telecoms and Transportation.
Morning, Jamaica. Prayers up. Let's start with JPS, which I know is on everybody's mind. The electricity grid has already been impacted by hurricane conditions, which have caused several power outages across the island. Several generation units, critical high-voltage substations, transmission and distribution lines across the island have been forced out of service by the hurricane-force winds and lightning. As a result, approximately 240,000 or 35% of JPS customers are without power. That's out of a possible 700,000. Mainly in the parishes of St. Elizabeth, Manchester, St. James, and Hanover. The status generation, there is adequate firm generation online to serve our customers. No renewables are available. As I said before, customers impacted, more than 75% of the customers in St. Elizabeth, Manchester, Hanover, and St. James are affected without electricity. The least impacted parishes, with less than 10% of customers impacted, St. Thomas, Kingston, and St. Andrew, and St. Catherine. The majority of hospitals continue to be supplied with JPS power, except those in Manchester and St. Elizabeth, such as Black River, Mandeville, and Percy Junior Hospital. But I can confirm that they are operating on standby power, generator power. There is no plan at this point to shut down the grid. JPS crews continue to respond and restore critical facilities and customers where it is safe to do so. In the meantime, JPS is reminding customers to stay safe and take precautions to protect life and property. And most importantly, stay tuned to official channels of information, which include government and JPS, for further updates. As it relates to our telcos, I'll start with Digicel. 26% of mobile network is offline, predominantly due to the widespread loss of power. There's a further 209 sites running on generators and 9 on batteries. For our fiber-to-home customers, we are seeing 20% customers offline due to no power in their homes. As we see the most impacted areas, we will work with our crews to focus on those areas first. Even if commercial power is still to be restored, we will keep generators fueled and gas the sites back to keep them up and running. They are also confirming that also in aid in recovery, we are working with the SMA to increase our spectrum bandwidth channels, as we know from our experience from Hurricane Beryl that the mobile infrastructure will be recovered much quicker than the fixed. So just to indicate that I, this morning at 3 o'clock, signed licenses for additional spectrum for Flow, Liberty Caribbean, and I'm awaiting Digicel to give them the same. For Flow, I'm happy to say that Liberty Caribbean, operators of Flow, Jamaica, and Liberty Business is committed to playing its part for Jamaica to recover quickly from the inevitable damage following the passage of Hurricane Melissa. Again, with the spectrum that they have received, they will be bringing a new innovation, mobile connectivity via satellite, and facilitates SMS and text messages to areas affected in the aftermath of the storm. So this partnership promises to seamlessly enable 4G LTE mobile customers to send texts to their family and friends, even when the local network services may be interrupted. So that's huge, very huge. And this collaboration with Starlink reflects a deep commitment to the Caribbean and protecting Jamaica. So we look forward for that. And we also look forward for Digicel to do the same, which will give us a lot more ability to communicate and to recover as quickly as possible. This one is the big important one now, and that is the airports. Based on my consultations with PACAL and the Jamaica Civil Aviation Authority about the timeline for the Norman Manley International Airport to accommodate emergency relief flights after the passage of Hurricane Melissa, the assumption is that the system will leave Jamaica by the end of today, Tuesday, October 28th, and that the impact on the Norman Manley International Airport is not extensive. Both PACAL and JCA will use tomorrow, October 29th, to inspect and clean up the facility and restore the test equipment that have been decommissioned to accommodate flights. These emergency relief flights could therefore be accommodated as early as Thursday, October 30th, 2025. Again, we are not sure what's going to happen with Montego Bay, who will face at least a lower category, possibly category 3. So we aren't able to say anything on Sangster, but we know that it could have potential disabling impact for that airport. The good news is that the Ian Fleming International Airport is being considered as a part of contingency planning. So it means that we could get into Ian Fleming with certain types of aircrafts, and that will help us significantly based on the distance between Ian Fleming and Montego Bay. Petrojam, following another meeting this morning of the refinery, Petrojam is turning its attention to deepening participation in the broader national multi-agency response. Fuel security plays a key role, as we know, and Petrojam is assuring that all 3 international airports, in addition to all airdromes, are at 75 to 80% capacity for aviation fuel. This will enable aircraft movement to resume immediately. In addition, Petrojam has 2 to 3 weeks supply of aviation fuel at its Kingston and Montego Bay storage facilities. So in accordance with international standards, we will follow strict safe storage and rigorous testing prior to reopening. Jamaica Civil Aviation Authority, the microwave system is in general is operational, with the exception of the links between Winchester headquarters and Catherine Peak, which is currently offline. All remote sites are operating on generator power. So this means that we will be able to accommodate relief flights, which the requests are coming in fast and furious. And as I said before, we spoke about Airports Authority. Finally, I'll just give an update on JUTC. And that was up to 9 o'clock last night, reporting 361 persons that were taken to shelters in several parishes. All road operations for JUTC ceased last night, with the exception of transport assistance being provided to essential services staff, such as hospital workers. JUTC's emergency standby teams remain in place at all depots. We will have some kind of disruption to some of the buses, because those buses that use CNG will not be able to be fueled immediately due to the fact that the plant has been decommissioned. But let me close by saying, once again, that government, as you have heard and will hear from Minister Mackenzie, we are dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's to make sure that we facilitate all that is required for the response that is going to come in relation to the rebuilding phase after this catastrophic hurricane. So I want to just say to you, those of you who are still
not taking it serious, you have but a few hours. And as I said before, based on what Evan said, the low-lying areas are going to be badly affected. Seek to go to higher ground and protect yourself and be smart. Again, commit to be here right through. And of course, if we work together, we will get through this once again. God bless Jamaica and keep safe.
Thank you very much, Minister Vaz. As you hear, we have not stopped working. He's not going to stop working to ensure that we have electricity and that we have telecom service. Right before this press briefing started, I heard him on the phone with JPS's head, and they were talking through how they were going to be making sure that we have electricity up in areas that aren't as badly affected, and then that we can recover even more quickly. He has not stopped working for us, and we have to obviously thank Starlink for that support that they're giving to our telecoms providers in Jamaica to ensure that even if our systems locally go down, that we will still be able to communicate internally and externally with the rest of the world. Also want to welcome the members of the media who are joining us from overseas. I know that the feed is going out also. We say good morning to you and good morning to all of your viewers out there too. Next up, we have Minister Desmond McKenzie, who is not just our Minister of Local Government and Community Development. He is the one that's coordinating the entire disaster response, wearing his hat as the Deputy Chair of our National Disaster Risk Council. The chair is the Prime Minister, who is very much behind the scenes coordinating all of this and calling all of us for updates. And so this morning you will hear directly from Minister McKenzie his updates on the entire disaster management framework.
Thank you, Minister Dixon. Again, let me commend you on the sterling job that you've been doing in presiding over these very important press briefing. Minister Vaz, Evan Thompson, my PS Director General acting, other support staff, and I want to acknowledge the team. The Jamaica Fire Brigade and the GADF was very active last night, responding to a number of calls to assist residents in sections of the corporate area. I want to, first of all, give an update on the state of shelters. Again, I want to repeat that all of the 800 and odd shelters are open. The numbers that I have presently speak to, of the 800 shelters, 382 shelters are occupied so far, with a total of persons within these shelters of almost 6,000 persons. Just to give you a rundown of the numbers in Kingston and St. Andrew, there are 45 shelters which are open with 581 persons. In Clarendon, 39 shelters with a accommodation of over 865 in Clarendon. Westmoreland, 33 shelters open with over 500 persons. St. Mary, 27 shelters with over 500 persons. St. Catherine, 27 shelters, 394 persons. Portmore, 8 shelters, 74 persons. St. Thomas, 18 shelters, 609 persons. Manchester, 23, 135. St. Anne, I see here 18 shelters open, but 0. There seems to be no one in any shelters in St. Anne. We'll check on those numbers. And over 19 shelters are open with over 261 persons. St. James, 30 shelters, 209 persons. Trelawney, 10 shelters, 313. Portland, 59 shelters, 541. St. Elizabeth, 26 shelters, 289. Now, St. Elizabeth is of concern because I am understanding that we are getting calls before we came on here of persons in St. Elizabeth asking for transportation to be sent into various communities to transport persons out of those areas. As Minister Vaz have said, it is going to be difficult. I have given instructions to the ADPEM director and to the team to advise the disaster coordinators and the members of parliament and the mayors wherever transportation is needed and they can get those transportation, they should do everything that is possible to provide the transportation to take the people out. But the system that we have had, as Minister Vaz said, those systems have been put on hold now because of the closeness of the system. So I would urge persons who can move to do so, and the mayors and the CEOs and the councillors and the members of parliament to do everything that is possible to assist those persons in moving. The impact of Melissa is being felt. Evan gave full details. We are having reports of widespread impact across several parishes which are seeing increased number of land slippage, flooding, fire, storm surge, and power outage. Roads in St. Thomas, Portland, and St. Catherine were blocked by fallen trees, poles, landslides, and most of these have been clear. And I want to make the point that the team that are on the road, the roving teams that have been pre-positioned, have been responding. Once the report is sent to the team, they are out there actually doing the work. So if you are in an area where there is blockage and fallen trees, you can send us the information, and once that is possible, we will send the team out. Minister Vaz, I see a report here, fire on GPS pole lines in certain sections. Storm surge affect Old Harbour Bay and other such communities. Caribbean Terrace is experiencing flooding, and I want to say that that is a community that I think we have to pay more attention to, because many years ago, when I was mayor, a section of Caribbean Terrace was devastated, and we are now seeing again, based on the information that is coming, and I'm going to ask the team to do some more checking to see the extent of what is taking place in Caribbean Terrace. We are experiencing, as I said before, land slippage in many communities in Portland, St. Thomas, St. Elizabeth, St. Thomas, and many other communities are experiencing those challenges as I speak at this time. This is the last briefing that we'll be able to give as update, but I will spend 2 minutes again. God has been merciful, because we've been talking about Melissa coming for almost a week. And still today, when we are expecting Melissa, there are still, as Evan have said, a small window of opportunity. Let us use it, and use it wisely. Let us respond. I hope by within the next hour, when I get an update, I will see more persons in shelters, and we will see more people responding. Jamaica, this is not the time to be brave. I've been saying for 1 week, don't bet against Melissa. It is a bet we can't win. I want to close because the reports is short, and we want persons to go to do what they can do for themselves, their families. And I want to thank all of you who have left your homes and have been spending time here, camping out, members of the media. Last night I walked and I interacted with them before I went to bed in my little corner. And, it was commendable to see the media and other support staff leaving their families and things. And this is a commitment that we are making for the betterment of Jamaica. Already we have started, as I said from yesterday, to look at how we're going to map our recovery. We have to start to look at that. We can't wait until Melissa's come to start to say how we are going to prepare ourselves for the recovery. We have started to do that in the meetings that we have been having. But I want to thank the team. And I know that Jamaicans are grateful. And we are all praying for the best outcome. So as I said before, whatever windows are available, I am asking those, especially in St. Elizabeth and those areas, who can move to do so at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Mackenzie. I just wanted to note, given that we have a lot of our members of the diaspora on, you've been asking a lot about how you can support Jamaica. Just noting that I'm very, very pleased this morning to announce the launch of our Support Jamaica website. It is supportjamaica.gov.jm. We've already been made aware of some nefarious individuals trying to collect money on behalf of Jamaica. We remind you that this will be the official site. If it doesn't have .gov.jm, it is not legitimate. It's not an official Government of Jamaica site. And so it will be supportjamaica.gov.jm, and it will be our online platform developed by the Government of Jamaica to mobilize support, to channel relief and coordinate recovery efforts in the wake of Hurricane Melissa. In it, you're going to have a donate now page where you can donate using your credit or debit cards, and you will also be able to give pledges. You also have all the information on ODPEM's bank accounts. If you want to do a bank transfer, you can do so there. A new innovation on that site is that you will be able to give updates on emergencies. So if there's an issue that you see in your area, you want to upload a picture, maybe there is flooding, maybe there is a town that has been cut off, you can actually notify us through that website also. It also has an interactive shelter locator for those who may need it. Even if you have to help someone to find a shelter, please use it. It will give you all the shelters that are near you. You can actually put in what parish you're in or what area you're in, and you can geolocate. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Tony. All right. We had a quick power outage, but we are back up here. Just noting again that you can find shelters. They are on that site, supportjamaica.gov.jm. And so it is all about mobilizing resources. So it's a resource for those locally and also for those in the diaspora and anywhere in the world that wants to give support to Jamaica. Again, the website is supportjamaica.gov.jm, and it was created overnight, updated in basically a day. The developers spent a day working on it, and we want to thank them. And it was donated to us by Amber Group in consultation with other members of the team and other private sector partners. We are going to be opening up now for questions from the media. I know I already have one question that I need to treat with, which has to do with tourists. How many tourists are here on the island? The number I have from the Ministry of Tourism is 25,000. They issued a press release yesterday, and they noted that they are coordinating with all of the hotels. There's no need to worry. The Ministry of Tourism has its center that is in constant communication with all of the hotels, has been providing support, and so we are keeping those tourists as safe as we possibly can. And so I open up for questions. Sarah, you're first.
Good morning, everybody. Zara Burton representing Reuters today. I would like to know, please, I realize that it is still early to talk about this, but I'm just curious if it is that, there could be any kind of comment about, search and rescue preparation. If there could be any kind of comment about if it is that you are in this hurricane and your shelter is compromised. Is there any advice on, I don't know if ODPEM can give any advice on safe rooms to go to, just any practical advice to residents who may be in this hurricane and in very perilous situations during and post?
Thank you for that question, and we're going to get you an answer.
Let me say that the Jamaica Defense Force and the Jamaica Constabulary Force are members of the National Disaster Committee, and they sit in the command center during the operation. So any request that comes in for search and rescue will be undertaken by the Jamaica Defense Force along with the Jamaica Fire Brigade, because they are a part of the national response team, and they are present, and we have equipments that are pre-positioned prior to the passage of Melissa that will be able to respond. So in a nutshell, yes, we are in a position to respond, and once the request comes in, the team will be ready to go. We have boats, helicopters, you name it. The government has equipped the Jamaica Defense Force, especially with a number of helicopters. The Jamaica Fire Brigade have a number of boats that can be used on land and can be used at sea for rescue operation and search operation.
Minister, I think there were some questions around tips, I think, between you and Mr. Thompson in terms of tips for persons. I know you're an expert in this area.
Yeah, thank you, Minister. Very difficult in terms of tips for Category 5, but nonetheless, I think one of the things that we have to do is to ensure that, as was said before, that we are doing most of the preparation going in. In terms of tips, we have always said that person should try as best as possible to bring a lot of stuff already outside, inside. We don't want a lot of stuff that you have loose stuff outside, especially, Minister spoke it about construction sites. A lot of those things can be used as missile in the system, so you try to bring a lot of those in as best as possible. Try to secure your animals. If you're inside, you stay in between walls that are not close to your outer walls in terms of your structures, because if your structure is not sound enough, those will go. A little bit better, I think, for persons who have multi-story facility. If your roof goes, you can go on the lower part of your building. Search and rescue component, the minister said it before. The teams are out there, but what we are saying in terms of tips as well, which was said before, and I will enforce it again, get into the shelters, because in terms of search and rescue, we can't do search and rescue in the heights of a system. Persons need to get away from the coastline, away from low-lying areas that are prone to flooding, and ensure that you are in safe, elevated areas to ensure that you are safe from all the dangers of coastal waters and riverine waters. And as best as possible, ensure that on the inside of your property, you're staying in between double walls. So if your outer wall goes, you're a little bit protected, and stay downstairs if you have a multi-story facility. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Thompson. Thank you, Minister Mackenzie. I think we're going to go to Nationwide News now.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. Mahiri Stewart, Nationwide News. Question for Minister Vaz. You oversee the energy, telecoms, and transport portfolio. Have you been receiving any reports of vandalism in any of those three sectors?
Thank God, nothing so far, and I hope it remains that way. Nothing so far.
All right, Television Jamaica.
Yes, Minister Vaz, Andrea Chisholm from TVJ. Quickly checking on the JUTC buses. I think you mentioned that the CNG plant has been decommissioned. So I'm thinking that 63 or 60 or so about of the 93 buses that came in operate on CNG. So do you have enough CNG in place to operate those buses for a while, or is it that they're totally out of use for now?
Yes. Prior to the hurricane and in preparation for the hurricane, one of the requirements was for additional storage to be on location in case deliveries are not able, because the deliveries are done by road. So we took that into consideration. So I'm hoping that the plant will be able to be recommissioned in short order, but there may be, depending on the level of damage, some disruption in terms of the full fleet, but we will have enough to do what we need to do.
Nationwide once again. Question to Evan Thompson. We know the effects that we're expecting in terms of the hurricane force winds and the tropical storm force winds on the outer side of Melissa, but in terms of the eye, because that's obviously going to pass through the country as well, what kind of conditions can persons expect during the eye of the hurricane? I know things are kind of calm now in certain areas. Are those persons within the eye supposed to expect similar conditions?
Thanks. That's a very good question, Mahiri. It's important for us to understand what happens when the eye is expected to move across your area. First of all, the eye itself is a calm area in the center of the storm. So as that moves over, it will appear as if it's all done. It will be a clearing. There will be very little cloud cover. There will be very little wind. And so it will feel as though the storm has passed. And it's a good feeling. And so a number of persons would want to take the opportunity to get some quick repairs done, especially since the eye extends a few miles actually in diameter. So, you know, it would take a little while to pass over you, and you could have some time of break. But before the eye gets to you, you would have passed through one of the most intense parts of this hurricane. It means that you will experience wind speeds that are approaching 300 kilometers per hour. This is round about 185 miles per hour. That's what the system is packing as a Category 5 hurricane. And much of that will be within the eye wall. In that eye wall, which is that area that surrounds the eye, you will have that most intense wind speeds, but also the most torrential downpours of rainfall. So that area will pass from the coast right across as the eye moves. Of course, that is the protective area for the eye that moves along with it, all the way from the southwest of Jamaica to the north central part of the island. So you will experience those intense conditions before the calm, and then after that calm, you experience it once again, unfortunately, and the winds will be from the opposite direction. So if it was coming to you from the east, it will now come to you from the west after the eye. If it was from the north, it will come from the south after the eye passes. It's always from the opposite direction after the eye passes, and you have to prepare yourself for that.
All right, so my question has to do with lightning strikes, because in one of the models that you showed us, I believe it was yesterday, we saw quite a few areas of thunderstorms. So I'm not certain what you can tell Jamaica now in terms of preparing or protecting ourselves from the possibility of being struck by lightning. And what do we look out for ahead of it? What are the signs?
Yes, lightning frequently occurs during the thunderstorms. Of course, it does occur during thunderstorms. And thunderstorms will be part of that intense area of the shower activity. We don't expect anyone to be outside, really. So that should of course, protect you from the lightning strikes to a large extent. Of course, there will be some impact. It will affect electricity supply. It could also be the cause of fires. And so it's important that that is also monitored. I'm sure the fire brigade is alert to that, that there could be fires that are generated because of the lightning strike. So that is one of those hazards that actually accompanies hurricanes as well. We don't talk much about tornadoes either, but actually we do have small tornadoes that develop in hurricanes, and that is something that people need to also be aware of. Whenever hurricanes move over, generally you have those smaller scale cyclonic events that are tornadic. Well, tornadoes develop within these systems, and that could also be a source of danger for residents as the system passes over. They don't last very long for our area, but they are a real possibility. Not just a possibility, they actually occur and have occurred in Jamaica in the past.
Possible for particular parishes more so than others, considering where this system is projected to travel?
I believe in most cases when you have those events, it would be in the lower lands, in the flatter lands, and not so much in the hilly terrain. However, we should be prepared. I mean, in the larger scale of things, we're dealing with a hurricane with huge winds, massive winds, but at the same time, you could have the resultant effect of additional with the smaller scale events taking place within it.
Thank you.
Another quick question to Mr. Mackenzie. You were clear, Mr. Thompson. Thank you. Very quickly, Minister, you mentioned that the JDF and JCF were responding to calls in the corporate area. Just trying to get some details on that. Is it that persons were now evacuating, or any flooding or anything?
No, not anything major. Just assistance that was required of them, and they have responded as they would normally do. Because remember now, the command center carries every critical area of government that forms a part of our disaster response mechanism. So once the information is fed into the command center, we will go out to see what is required in terms of why a request was made. And that was why the team was out. And we have roving teams on the road that is driving around. So when they pick up anything on the road, they will act, and they will call in and give central the information, and we will log those information, because we use the information after to see what took place and how best to address and to see how we can prevent. Yes.
And question from Nationwide: Have you been updated in terms of the readiness and the preparation for places such as prisons, children's homes, and homes for old persons?
Well, as I said before, the security forces sit on the national committee. So everything security-wise, and we don't discuss the security aspects of the prisons and the operations of the police and the military, because that is confined, and you know why that has to be confined. The Ministry of Labor and Social Security, we work with all the ministries are involved. So children homes and the infirmaries and everything is taken care of in the general scheme of things and planning. And inspections are done to these facilities to ensure that they are up to standard.
All right, chat. So I'm about to get back to, let me see if I can find out what's actually going on right now.
Got some elevation to work with, but I mean, you're still talking about a devastating storm surge.
Right, so where does it go from here? It goes over into the water again later on this afternoon through the evening hours, approaches into Cuba. Cuba starts getting those hurricane force winds out there by late this evening.
Yep.
Overnight tonight could make a landfall, and you're right, if it's before midnight, that's two major landfalls in less than a day.
And it could be a Cat 5 and then a Cat 4. It
Same
could be
day.
among the strongest landfalls we've seen in Cuba, and this is, I mean, it's a powerful storm, and that forward motion is what's probably going to assist in maintaining its intensity. It's strange.
You were talking about this too. The surge right there, potential now. You're talking about 13 feet. Probably not as much when you get towards Kingston, but you still have the storm surge warnings. When you get on the other side, remember the winds are coming around on this side too, so you're getting a storm surge on that northwestern quadrant.
Yeah.
of the island itself.
Yeah, it's true. And up in Montego Bay, I mean, that's a hot spot too. It's certainly popular among tourists, but as well as people who live there. Montego Bay has an international airport. That's more rain in Montego Bay than we will in Kingston. I mean, we'll see how it plays out, but.
And if you're wondering why we can't show radar pictures, because Jamaica, it's just clogged.
Yeah.
The traffic on the website right there, trying to get any kind of a radar out of here, you're just not able to do it.
Yeah,
There's too
no,
many-
we
too
were
many
able
people
to
on.
show it yesterday, but yeah,
Right.
not today.
No. And you see the winds, and we're going to peek at it right around here. You're talking about St. Anne's Bay. This is where Robert Ray is located. It's going to peak at it, probably closing in on 100-mile-per-hour winds. Look.
Is it just me, or is that not weird? Since when have they not been able to get coverage of a storm? That's not weird to y'all? That's weird.
Look at the gusts right there. Are you talking gusting to 130 where Robert Ray is?
I know, and that's on the northern side of the island.
Yeah.
That's after the eye has been.
Continue to go downhill throughout the afternoon. We'll get a landfall update here probably within the hour. You want to keep.
Got here yesterday morning, just in case something like this happened, and it's happened. Westmoreland, St. Elizabeth. These are high terrain areas. St. James.
So is this what it looked like in Kingston right now? I don't know. I just find it weird that they say they can't get coverage of the storm. Like this. I'm trying to find some good footage for y'all. Give me a second. I'm gonna try to find some good footage of what's going on in Jamaica. Are they outside in Jamaica right now?
Run long for this long while. Scroll on, tell them. People share the live, share the live.
What happened? Okay, so so it do look like they're in Jamaica.
Dear, you gotta get there for yourself,
Yeah,
man.
all right.
It is serious.
My place looks very devastated. It's crazy, people. It's crazy, 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 crazy. So we don't feel the whole impression now, people. As I said, I travel from Senti, so you know from Senti get it, we have to get it, okay? Alright.
It is not nice to see that. You gotta be there to see there.
Oh,
you gotta get there. You gotta get there for yourself,
yeah,
man.
Alright.
It is serious. It's serious,
No,
man.
it's not blow fire up and see it on.
Alright, bridge me a cover. Bridge. Go look for a bridge.
Alright, alright.
It is not normal.
Alright, see you later, alright. People, whoa, I told you. You see, when you start overflow, my people, it's when you start overflow, man, it's a problem. See what Mr. Colin Gage a come from there, flood out. It's crazy, my people. Share the live, people. Share the live, share the live. Remember, on last Sunday, I gave this exclusive. Watch that, whoa. Water like dirt. No, so why you some flood out, man? It's crazy. Our gyms have some flood out, people. Whoa!